Hello Blender folks, welcome and welcome back. So this is Gnomes, and why you're using the wrong technique. Actually, so this is the topic, big subject here, and actually, unless I've made a terrible mistake, my conclusion is that, well, we've been doing garbage for eras, and vanilla Blender can actually solve it with smart rigging. So the thing needs some demonstrations here. I'll do my best to get this very clean as possible. Clear, right? So the question is the interpolation arcs of motion. You see, like this motion paths here. And the problem is that conventionally we say, the riggers, the animators, right, in 3D, at least in Blender, we say that we've been saying, people have been saying all along the time that I key doesn't make curve interpolations and F key does. Okay, long story short, that's it. Which is true, but there are a lot of problems with this, because this is a simplification statement, and actually the real things here are way more interesting than what is told. And because rigs out there have been using, including the conventional Rigify add-on, has been using F key, I key switches and snapping to solve certain of these problems, or at least it's also meant to solve the generation of perfectly circular arcs of motion. In this case it would be this one, because the loose bone, which would be the I key controller bone, usually it is a loose bone. It can be parented offset, but because we need to usually pose it directly, then what happens is that it will create a linear thing, unless we break down, which is bad, and maybe we'll never do a good perfect circular arc of motion spontaneously. And this is very bad if we are trying to do this perfect ballistic rotation of a limb, the entire limb, because there's the inverse kinematics in the setup with at least an I key bone constraint that will gonna have some the leg, as it tries to find the circular, it will bend here and there. So I will demonstrate all this, but the fact is that there are ways to cheese Blender into solving this spontaneously inside the I key bone constraint, or even I believe maybe even other methods, right? So here is the proof, or a proof of concept. So this is the proof of concept, in which this is I'm gonna start this by this because this is a proof of concept. So essentially, let's reset here. What we have here is a bone constraint. It doesn't matter, it can be this one, but we are missing some structures here. So this is the deform rig, actually, right? This one is would be the deform rig, right, for an arm. This will be a tweaker hand which controls the hand, but you see there's a stretch to here, stretch to the bone constraint, and I've designed this in order to substitute the I key stretch feature in the forearm, the control forearm here, because although it is good, so you see I don't have I key stretch here. So I'm gonna demonstrate just in a moment why the I key stretch is the culprit of the fact that things do not work properly. Of course, it's not only the culprit, it's part of the problem. Why the loose I key master bone doesn't get the circular arc of motion by default, while an F key rig will do it. Notice that in this let's say this one. This is more conventional, so I use tail, right? So this is an Ike bone constraint on the forearm. So imagine this, okay, mechanism's hand, and so you'll notice that if we keyframe okay, let's just keyframe this, right? The master, and then we're gonna go here and keyframe this. Okay, so I have this thing. So what we see here, I'm gonna create a motion arc for every single bone here that matters. This is the wrong joint. Okay, it's actually, because I'm using the head, right, bake locations. So you see, here we have an arc of motion. Why? Because, of course, this is connected. This is parented in this case. It doesn't matter if it's offset or parented connected. In this case, it's connected, but it doesn't matter. It's a Ike bone constraint, so both will work. So you see, this is a perfect circular arc of motion because the tail or the tail of this bone here, or the head of this bone here, is bounded by an object, which is the head of this bone. So because they are parented, right? So this is an FK behavior, even though this is inside the Ike chain of this Ike bone constraint. So you see, the problem is not here, and the problem might be here, precisely on this joint, depending on the motion that we're doing. So if I'm gonna make also an interpolation actually here, now you see the problem. This is not the best example, but you see what's happening is that it's not necessarily a problem, but in some cases it will be a problem. So we have a linear interpolation, and this is not doing an arc here because the master Ike is doing this motion, precisely linear motion. So if you wanted, this is just happening because of how the Ike bone constraint relates, and I don't have even an Ike stretch here or some stretching feature. So it's here, it's because of we are bending here the thing. Of course, if I want to do an artificial arc of motion here, we could, for example, yeah, you can do, there are many ways, like I can keyframe here, and then I'm gonna pose this and do something like this. Of course, I'm reshaping some stuff, but I think I have to remake this. My interpolation doesn't seem to have worked here. Let's try again. Okay, so here see, it's a not very good curve, but it gets the job done for some certain things. But this is not ideal, right? And but there is worse. This is still okay-ish, right, for animation, I think, for character animation. The problem may emerge, a more critical problem. Before I mention this, yeah, so this is gonna be a bit long because we're gonna make plenty of demonstrations here. So if you follow up and try to reproduce these things on your own, or you may probably understand this better. So we can also try to match the perfect arc there, or try to get as good as possible. I have to like it could do crazy things, right? If I try to get like the exactly in between, exact center. Yeah, it's tricky right now. I wasn't supposed to do this, but yeah, let's say that was exactly the center. Then what we could do, maybe we could duplicate this keyframe here for this thing, so we get it here, and then what we're gonna do from here is that we're gonna try to, the problem is that it is in motion. Nope, hold on. yeah, so I'm gonna kind of maybe pick this joint here and try to do a circular. Yeah, I am not sure here, but we got use the 3D cursor to, yeah, this is a terrible example, sorry folks, but then we can try to match the I think could be, yeah, I'm a bit lost here folks, but the idea is that, yeah, we can start to get the bending so that we can try to get the circular thing. Yeah, this is a bad example, sorry folks, probably. We need to focus here. It's a very hot day here in my town. I'm sweating. So, but I found it, I discovered all these things today, so now the one solution here today, so this is why this is important. Okay, so let's ignore this this trick here. I demonstrate this somewhere else. Anyways, the thing is that if we substitute the Ike stretch, yeah, it's time to demonstrate what the Ike stretch, how it ruins the thing. So this is Ike locked here. So it's like this is there's no Ike bound constraint here. So here we just have some auto Ike option. Yeah, and so that I can bend, let's say, yeah, up to here. So I'm gonna keyframe this. You'll see that it will keyframe the rest, right? So if I try to get this arc of motion here, first of all, I forget to keyframe. Let's reset. No, what's happening? Okay, folks, sorry. Let's do this again. So keyframe here, then we bring here, we do this, and we, well, wait, it's not keyframing. I have auto key, so not sure, but anyways, maybe it's locked. No, it's not. Oh yeah, of course, maybe because it's Ike locked, then this is not responding. So my own setup kind of ruined the thing. So maybe I should not be posing this. Yeah, that's it. So let's not pose this one. Let's pose this one. So here, and just reduce the wires here. Okay, now I have this motion. So let's do the motion path. So you see that I have an arc of motion here, and because, yeah, so this hand is stiff, but you see we have double arcs of motion. Aha, so this is different, right? So why this is happening? Because of course this rig with auto IQ option, or let's say this rig, this is an F key behavior. It's all F key behavior, right? Because they are all parented and even parented connected, so we can have the auto IQ option to work for this, at least for these bonds, right? So this, if we disconnect, it will do the same. It won't change anything. Yeah, it won't change anything. So it doesn't matter because this bond like is just stiff, right? So, but anyways, we can reconnect here. So that means that you see that normal rig, the simplest rig with auto IQ option, which is an ephemeral rigging feature, it's all its arc of motion are spontaneously circular arcs of motion, and especially this one is perfectly circular in according to this rotation here, right? As you can imagine, right? It's pivoting, right? Because the bond doesn't stretch, right? No IQ stretch, and even if there was IQ stretch, I've reported, or the auto I key is immune to I key stretch, or it doesn't work. I key stretch brings a lot of problems. I will show you that it also is one of the culprits why the I key bone constrain the master, or the rig of the I key, like these ones. They won't. This one is solved, but maybe not this one. This will be linear because precisely certain things can break it, especially including the I key stretch. So no I key stretch here, and you see this works, but there's no I key bone constraint here. So what we can do now is to let's get this one. I'm gonna duplicate here, and what we're gonna do is that we're going to so what we have is that we have an I key bone constraint here. I'm gonna prove or demonstrate. I'm gonna demonstrate that it doesn't really matter if the I key bone constraint is set here with use tail, or if it is used here with not use tail. So it doesn't matter the result. So this bone is connected just as this one is. Yeah, so it's the same rig essentially. Two with I key bone constraint on a hypothetical arm rig. So let's do the yeah, so we can't make the arc of motion here. Even if we use this, we'll have a little problem here, right? Let's say that we want to do this motion, right, for the arm, right? So but you see there's no I key stretch. So isn't this interesting, because if you look for the perspective of the F key behavior, oh well, this is F key behavior, this is F key behavior. So that means, yeah, precisely what you imagine. So if the deform rig was sticked to these bones, the control or mechanism bones, whatever, how you want the name, then that means that precisely no matter where we place the I key, master I key bone of the hand, because there is no I key stretch, right? Ignore the scaling problems that might affect the rig, the model, but the skinning, right? But imagine that the I key stretch, it kinda adapts. But here is the demonstration that, of course, I key stretch or something, stretching of the limbs can be useful, sometimes even fundamental for good animation, 3D animation. But there are other ways, and because the I key stretch will fuck Jesus, will actually destroy certain things. It's probably, maybe there's a workaround with I key stretch, I'm not sure. But what we're gonna do is that we're gonna demonstrate with both these rigs here that, okay, we're gonna keyframe this, just the master. Let's then go to the very yeah, so I don't know why. Let's select all the bones here. Let's delete all this. Okay, let's delete all this. Okay, we got this one. We keyframe, right? Then we go to the very end, and now it doesn't matter where I place it. Let's place it here. All right. So what happened here? You see the problem, right? The bending, because if I make a motion pad for the I key, it's linear interpolation because this is a loose bone. We're not controlling it through a parent bone or a F key behavior transforms, indirect transforms that will affect. So it cannot help itself. It's a loose bone, and by being a loose bone, Blender doesn't know, current Blender, so interpolation is stupid, right? It doesn't know what the 3D animator really want in a character animation, so it will interpolate that way. But it knows the interpolation for this. So as you can see, the arcs of motion are perfect, or well, the in terms of these bones, not the arm motion, but individually the bones, yeah, this bone here and this bone, they are doing their perfect arc of motions, even though we have this problem. So this will be one of these cases where we might want to make like something like this, right? Which is not a perfect, I tried my best here, but we can even do crazier than that. This is what I wasn't finding out. Like, it's like I need to ballistically make the rotation of this bone like yeah, like here. Then I think here this is a good example. So I get this, and then I pivot here, and then try to get yeah, so, and then from here, was it the case? No, I think I missed something. I forgot something. I need to delete, yeah, something. I'm sleeping here. I know there's a technique here that is scrappy, but it works. Yeah, it's junky. Like there's something about you duplicate. Oh, I think because this keyframe is wrong, of course. Yeah. Sorry, folks. This was the thing, right? So let's here actually what we're gonna do is that we're gonna just continue here, right? Okay, so it will be more like, let's do this again. So start straight. Let's clear this up. Then okay, keyframe here. Then we get here. Yeah, Blender doesn't understand that we want an arc of motion. So this is how stupid the technology is. Oh, but it's not the fault of technology. Yeah, it's poor design, basically. But there are add-ons. I know a pay add-on that apparently more than one. There's an extension that actually seems to be free. I was testing. But the thing is that we can bypass these limitations with yeah, I'm just showing very crude raw workaround, right? So basically I got here, then what we get is that we need to do this, and so I've made the brick down, right? Yeah, and you see there's still a problem. So no matter how good we want to try to match this, it's never like, maybe for character animation this works fine, right? Circular arc of motion, perfectly circular. To be fair, this will be very stupid to like in nature, right? There's micro stretching, so it's not perfect, right? So actually this is it's great to have the circular, but what if you don't want the perfectly circular? So there's also this positive negative thing. So the analytic software, they would, like a CG software, they will bring us as always the analytic solution. So either it will have the perfect circular arcs everywhere or something. It's very hard to be more versatile like in drawing, right? So animation drawing. So it's like yeah, what I don't have the circular arcs, but what if I had everything circular arcs and I don't want them anymore? Then we are stuck somewhere. But there might be I think there are alternatives. Anyways, the thing here is that you see this sucks and we can't get very good, although I sort of managed to stop the thing. However, this is where I had to have the big breakdown, of course, which is garbage. So this is not good, right? So I want a spontaneous curve, and here is what this is why we need the F key rigs, usually like rigified on, and then it goes even worse, because then we have I key rig, entire F key rig, entire I key rig, and then you have to switch and snap, and there are already simultaneous I key F key solutions which don't need switching, proper custom properties, nor snapping, of course, none of both. And there is also, this is what I'm showing today, that the cause of the, at least for the arcs of motion, then we can solve for the arcs of motion, for to have circular arcs of motion, even for the loose I key bone constraint, we can solve this for the rig, while at the same time having the stretching. Okay, so here is what the I key stretch does, and this is very interesting, is that if I have this bone here, and we have, okay, so we already know that this doesn't really work for, unless we, right? So if I have the I key stretch, it's even worse, because if I gonna keyframe, no, not this one, right? Then you see that the I key stretch will sort of, well, not always, but the I key stretch will facilitate the non-arcing, right? And this is is one of the problems. So if you have I key stretch, you can be assured that in principle, this will counter, this will limit, this will make it even more difficult to have spontaneous more curved arcs. Now I don't have I key stretch, so yeah, this bone is not good here. We want this bone. Yeah, so where's the Control T? Okay. So you see how easy it is to, so maybe I'm not being myself very clear about this, but the fact is that the I key stretch will force the arc of motion to be broken. Oh yeah, maybe I need to try with this one, right? You see here? Because, of course, the bone is adapting to the loose I key master controller. And if I didn't have the I key stretch, now this is a good example, right? Right, so here it doesn't totally matter as long as I'm not getting this thing, right? Of course, we don't want this thing, so this is still a problem. But you see that where the I key stretch is a problem. Okay, so we can totally have a... so there are some other behaviors here which are interesting. Like here you see, this is a linear. So here we don't have the... Yeah, so here we have... This is not... yeah, this is a straight line. And there's no I key stretch, but we are having this because... So this is maybe a bit harder to explain. But we don't have here this thing. Unless it was a very critical coincidence. Right, it's more or less the same motion, right? But you see, they are different. So, this one, maybe it's not a huge problem. but because yeah, this can be a problem. So okay, I made the breakdown. So yeah, of course this is a problem, because you see this bone is losing the arc. So this arc, right? So it can, while if it got here, you see there are different way that the wrist can make the motion, right? So there are different adaptation, right? Okay, so with this shown, let's go for, so it doesn't matter, right, if the IK bone constraint is here or there, the problem will be the same. The problems will be the same. As you can see, so you see perfect arc of motion here, because this joint, and then here because of the loose IK, right? However, yeah, you see, it's not only, so it is not wrong exactly. Either the bone or the master, right? Both have the same arc of motion, because this is IK master, right? While this one, which doesn't have the IK master, right? This is clearly, right, doing this. Okay, so how to address this differently? So this is where big stuff come into place. Just a smart, groundbreaking solution, at least for the arc of motion with IK bone constraint, where I'm gonna show precisely that all this is bullshit, because precisely we can do this. So we're gonna get, so what we have here, it's okay, I've decided to use this system, but it doesn't matter, right? Apparently is so disable the use tail, and it is here. So what we're gonna do here is that we have this bone is connected to this, so the control forearm, we don't really control it there, right? Because, but at least maybe the control shoulder, okay, which is not part of the IK chain, right? So then what we have is a tweak hand. This could be another loose bone if we parented it to the master IK, which is another fucking loose bone. Of course, we could possibly parent it here, and then if we rotate, yeah, maybe this is a solution, yeah, why not, right? But for like the arc of motion of this, maybe, yeah, so let's reset here. Okay, let's insert keyframe, go at the end. I think this CG dive has shown this, but this is well known anyways. But just occurred me, yeah, this maybe this won't solve other problems of IKF key, but it will solve the at least one of the arcs. So I think, as you can see, the arc here was shaped by this, and this doesn't create a dependency cycle, I think. This is for other stuff, yeah. So because the IK chain just goes up to here, so it doesn't matter if this bone is parented, the IK chain is right. So, and then we can also pick this bone, and we can possibly make slightly adjustment to the, yeah. So this is like what's happening here is that a loose bone is being posed on top well, it's not a loose bone anymore, but we are posing it now in a loose way. So because it's not, I'm not moving its F-key behavior system, which is currently the control shoulder. I'm posing it through directly loose bone system. So this is like the typical bad I key that won't make the arcs of motion. But because we're building this on top, keyframe this on top of an already good arc of motion, then this is interesting for at least regarding the arcs of motion, but circular arcs of motion. And here we have this slight distortion of the arc on demand. So I think this is an interesting feature. But anyways, let's delete this, and now let's unparent here, because it was not my intention here to do this. So if I parent the tweak hand, you see it's parent to the mechanism hand, which is parented, so F-key behavior to this, which is F-key behavior to this, which is F-key behavior to the shoulder. So what that means is that if the tweak shoulder follows somehow, doesn't need to be parent offset, but yeah, it follows an arcing bone by default. This one is an arcing bone by default, at least when this bone is following the yeah, because the I key bone constraint is here. So yes, it's targeting through I key the master hand, but it is not following. It's not following, so it's not stretching, right? And what does that mean is that the tweaker hand, which is not a loose bone, but we can pose it as a loose bone, just as this one. If I try to check the interpolation of this bone, what we'll get will be precisely an arc of motion, just as this bone, which is not supposed to be posed, but whatever, don't pose it. We can lock it, copy transforms to this on top of the I key, maybe before, right? Copy transforms full, doesn't matter here. So if I keyframe, and you know the I key stretch would ruin this system. Yeah, it will ruin, because then I will have this, what I've showed before. So because the I key stretch is 0, that is not happening, and that means that I can, let's say I'm gonna keyframe, I'm gonna keyframe this, and then I'm gonna yeah, I got some loose wrong okay, let's delete all this. I just want to keyframe to simplify, right? So okay, this will make a linear motion, of course, for this bone, and this of course can ruin our system because it will bend, right? So that means that what we can do here is, of course, we need to get this far away to, but well, okay, maybe here we will have some problem, right? At some point we won't be able to get, yeah, it will be very hard to make the, yeah, you see, there's really no I think that maybe there's no angle that will satisfy the exact, yeah, I'm not sure, but it's not good, right? So this is certainly not a solution. So we need to make any kind of arc, right, with a breakdown, which is not very good, right? But it doesn't matter, because except for the breakdown thing, which is annoying, but we see that we are not getting, because we are not getting I key stretch, right? So we are not causing any problems to the, it's stretching as much as it can, also 0 stretch, So it's just trying to reach the extreme. So you see, this really doesn't matter. The curve is perfect even for the tweaker, which we can pose as I posed here, because it is parent to the mechanism. We can make this slightly adjustment. But, and so this bone carries the hand, and this bone also is struggling to escape from the grip of the arc of motion, as you can see, of the is struggling to escape the arc of motion of the, let's reset here, insert keyframe here, right, to get rid of its F key manipulation, F key behavior, right? But okay, so you see, if I keyframe this one, yeah, so it's bound to this bone through an F key behavior already, so it is not a loose bone anymore. And it is, so it's inbuilt the tweak here. The tweak could be like it controls a mechanism rig which controls the deform rig, for example. So here I don't have the mechanism rig. What I have is directly the deform rig. So yeah, we can create the mechanism rig if you want for other features, maybe a helper rig and such, and other features related to the control rig and stuff. But for now, for this demonstration, don't need. So you see that it doesn't matter here. We can, if I check how this moves, this moves exactly as this. So the tweaker and the deform hand, right? So, and this one, okay, this one is moving just as this one. So, and this one, we are not using this directly. We are using this indirectly because we can still pose. So what we have here is a composed F key, not I key, but a composed F key with loose, F key in the source of F key behavior in source of the perfect circular arc of motion. So if I want it to be a perfect arc of motion, I just don't pose the bone, right? I just leave it, the tweaker. But if I want to do some stretch, which is not I key stretch, then I can do this. And now I have some stretching on demand, and we can squash and this is right, this works. So you see, this compensates for the fact that we cannot have the arc of motion. The problem, of course, is that the arc of motion is still annoying to keyframe, but you see that in the sense of this bone doesn't really matter where it is, as long as it's not interfering with the arc of motion. Here I'm not sure if there is an alternative to this little problem. It's not so little problem, but you see that this thing sort of solves the problem. And if one of the problems, and if we had the I key stretch here, we would lose. Certainly things will be different here, and what would happen is that if I want to check how this arc of motion, okay, not this one but this one, now you see that it's like we are following the bad arc of motion of the, right, for this bone. So you see, this already is suffered some trauma here, because it is like it's like this linear stuff. It's just following the whatever crazy interpolation of the, so it's sort of lost the arcing because of the I key stretch. So the I key stretch sacrifices, because the sacrifice the perfect circular arc of motion. This bone it's a goner now. Like it will end up with the same problem of the loose master I key, because it will try to reach it. And the others know that this I key stretch, you don't have a really it's almost a binary thing. It's good when we are using on multiple, right, variations and multiple bones. Then we can play more or less with this, so this can start to become useful. But in the sense of the final output for the I key, it, in my experience, this will just end up by reaching the target, or it will disrupt the rig. And this arcs of motion, so this is very destructive, so we can't use this, but we can use this setup. And so this is not going crazy, because actually each of these deformed bones is parented offset to its respective, right, except for this one, which follows the tweak hand instead of this. But then this is parent offset here. So you see that this will allow us to do this trick. And so this means that we don't care too much of the arcs of motion, of the lack of circular arc of motion of a loose bone like the master I key, because if we don't have I key stretch, as we don't here, we still have the arc of motion, perfect arc of motion, if we want. The only problem is, okay, what do I do with this? So this is, but you see, in the sense of arcs of motion, it's bullshit to say that we need F key, I key, like at least the conventional ways, or some ways. We don't need, we can do this with a loose bone. And you see that the crazy arc of motion of this bone, as long doesn't affect the output. So here is the demonstration. So that means no arc of motion. If you are doing a rig that you need to solve arcs of motion, you don't need just the arcs of motion feature, the making circular arc of motion, or this composed solution for arcs of motion. Then you don't need, wait, let's make it a bit more interesting curve. Okay, we're gonna, you don't need an F key, I key rig separated. Well, yeah, this is an I key rig, and this is a tweaker rig. This is a master I key controller. Okay, where is my F key rig? This is the F key rig for the arcs of motion, and it is built inside the I key rig, or vice versa. So this is behaving a bit like the original proposition. Yeah, let's see if that is, maybe I'm saying something, maybe we lack, yeah, there is this small difficulty here, but you see, let's see now what happens if we want. Yeah, so maybe here we have some problems. Yeah, because here I haven't tested everything, right? So probably, maybe here we might have a little issue. So you see, it can get complicated, but this arcing, we see that we can do something. So this is an upgrade, in conceptual upgrade. I would use this, but let's see for, okay, what about this other one, right? So this, I'm more scared about this than the other incompletion, right? The requirement of make a breakdown. Okay, so gonna pick all this, we're gonna delete everything, we're gonna reset. Yeah, I don't want this keyframe, so I just want to start here. We're gonna end up doing okay, let's try here. So of course I have a linear thing, let's for this bone, but what for? Yes, so I see that this bone is following which is bad, right? And is there anything we can do about this? So this is not the result that we were having here. If you remember, this rig here has, which is pure auto IQ option, right? If I do this, and we're gonna think I forgot. Okay, let's reset. Yeah, let's keyframe this. Gonna do this. There we go. So yeah, so you see I can't get this F key behavior in this kind of motion, so this could be a bit tragical, and maybe it is possible that we cannot solve this entirely. Okay, let's see. We have here, and you see there's no IQ stretch here, but here we are bending, right? So this is a dangerous area or volume for region for the spatial 3D region for the IQ master, because it is forcing the behaviors not to be circular arcs of motion inside, as we've just see. Otherwise, this bone, no, actually, so this bone is behaving linearly, and this is very sad. But now let's check here something. Okay, I'm gonna keyframe this because this is a bone that I can control. The problem is that it is a loose bone, and we're gonna so this controls the deform rig, right? We need to break down. We don't have an insider arc of perfect arc of motion. I don't think we can do this because this is a loose bone. In order to do this, we need to have an arc of motion, because in the end, I don't know if you realized, but in the end what matters is the deform rig, is the arcs of motion of the deform rigs which carry the body. And this is the interesting part, because in this particular case, if I was able to have the arc of motion made for arcing for the deform rig as it should, right, not following this stupid thing, then we could do something about this. I'm thinking if there is any way. Maybe there isn't in the current state, because we are going inside, and this is the dangerous region. So this is something that I myself got wrong in this experiment, but you see that some proof here. We halfway solved certain thing. Yeah, so I was thinking that I could find something problematic, right? At the same time that I found something that is very intriguing. Okay, so actually, you're gonna make it for yeah, and here to no avail, we have this arcing. what I'm doing, don't ask me, but essentially yeah, so of course the more if we start to make in-betweens, then of course we're gonna get some sort of curving that can be useful, but it's not really, yeah, what is bad is precisely that this bone here still get this, and this one, if I pose this bone here, yeah, it is stretching, so this is a loose bone. I cannot really count for I'm thinking here if there's any other way. Let's return here, insert keyframe for this, then we go here and insert here, so nothing changed. If I stretch here, we're not getting an arc, perfect arc of motion, of course, naturally. That's just not. Let's reset. What if I... Yeah, the hand cannot... This bone is not supposed to be keyframed, right? And in the I key bone constraint, we can't do F key manipulations like this one, right? So this is one of the problems, right? We can't control this thing. So yeah, I see the problem. So this I key solve, right? That is too strong for this system. Yeah, you see no I key stretch, and we still get this because it's inside, right? It's a squash, so sort of a squash, right? In the sense that it is not stretching. So it's forcing this joint to go back in order to have this linear motion. But what we really wanted is to have this linear motion like curving inward, something like this, right? So we can do this, and we have a... We don't necessarily need to do this from the perspective of the master, right? We could do this with this, with actually squashes the bone, right? Is there any other thing that we can do about this? So no rotation here. This is stretch 2, so if we don't have the stretch 2, we don't have the feature, but we can probably make some inversion, right? Ideally, we would like to have like a tweaker that controls the other tweaker, maybe. And then we have an F key from this joint, and then we control this joint through an F key behavior of this joint, and then we can do the problem is that this joint is still here, so it's just not gonna help. But yeah, so let's check this one. Yeah, so if you say my opinion regarding this thing, let's compare here. We have this arcing, and we have this one is the same arcing. And this one is a very different supposed arcing there. We need to go below, right? Okay, we see it's linear, right? Almost linear, apparently. Not easy to see. Yeah, because there's a keyframe here. Let's delete this. Alright, so now it's linear, but so to match, we don't even need to do this with the I key, but could be better, I don't know. We could do this with the F key, right? And we have some sort of matching with some fake I key stretch. So you see that it is very plausible. And this, we can do this without switching and snapping. And we can do this with the same rig setup. So it's a little more like, it's still not, yeah, it's not ephemeral rigging, but we have some stacking functionalities, more or less accurate, right, in the single rig. So I think this is kind of advantageous, and I don't think that because sometimes I keep imagining when you guys do 3D animation, right, in Blender or other stuff. Do you always get 1D arcs of motion in your I key, right, every time? So it sounds like, if it's not spontaneous like a rig like this, which could be even limiting, right, to have always perfectly arced out motion, maybe this is not good, right? This is not, so this is the analytic thing, and this is also the analytic thing when you just can't have variation, right? So I think this is like there's some counterpart here, of course, but it seems to be relatively acceptable because you're doing the I key. Oh, let's do some arcing here just to get a I don't know, for me this is more seems more spontaneous. And as I have presented before, with this rig we don't care about the arcing we have a bad arcing for the inner bones here, but one more serious arcing, we don't actually have this problem because it was not a good example. Yeah, we will need to use this one again. Yeah, this rig, which is more sophisticated. So that means that we would have to, yeah, so we got, yeah, we can keyframe everything. Then we go at the end. So here, you see no F key behavior, but yeah, maybe we, so the bad thing about keyframe, having this bone parented here, that you can't pose directly this bone to achieve the arc of motion. The arc of motion of this bone is depending on another object. And then maybe if it's a shoulder bone, we really and I'm posing here. Maybe you don't want to. Okay, so what about? Yeah, so the pinning. Yeah, so here we bring another problem that I've just realized. So where's the pinning, right? Because this is a separated rig, but I think that I was testing something like this in. Oh yes, yes, yes. Sorry, folks. So apparently this is all very interesting, but I just remember maybe one reason why this is not why this is that this fails is that we are missing here the pinning. The lack of I key stretch. Yeah, this was the contradiction. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So actually, this is not a really groundbreaking. There's just information here. So actually, what's having here, good information though, but yeah. So actually, here we don't have the pinning. I key stretch can provide pinning, but then the I key stretch would cause that interpolation. So I have probably to delete this video before it's too late. But here the thing is that we're going to try. So this was the big mistake here of this this thing. Although we can solve certain things, its counterpart is very bad. It's not that we can't do some good techniques with this, but apparently this will sacrifice one of the best fundamental things, which with of the I key, right? And I think it has nothing to, which is the pinning, constant pinning, even almost. We gonna try to parent here, but I don't think this will be any advantage. So if I yeah, so if we parent here, we lose the pinning from the shoulder. So we need a very big master bone in order not to ruin our rig, right? So this will be some sort of, we can do with simultaneous IKF key rig. I've demonstrated this in another live way to achieve it without switching and snapping. But yeah, it's not what I'm trying to do here. So let's see. Okay, let's well, I was saying there was not pinning. No, that there is pinning. So what I'm talking about? Here is the pinning. Of course, we might have to make an adaptation here, right? So this controls the deform here. Yeah, so we have, you see the deform rig is there. We don't need to, okay, let's do this at once. So maybe I was wrong, folks. Actually, I was wrong that I was wrong. So we need to finish this to see entirely the settings here. But okay, this is the pinning. And so, but I saw something weird at some point that I cannot explain. Is this free? Yeah, it's just not free to rotate, but it's not so much about the rotation which matters here. It's more about the, okay, can we do okay, let's try fake parenting. I'm not sure this will solve anything. No, this is, seems to be what's happening here. No, it's the opposite. It's custom space. Yeah, so to no avail. So this is not the way to go. Maybe we need something else. Let's see, this won't work. No, no. So this is parent mechanism. Why it is having this behavior? So soundtrack. Okay, so this still pins. Yeah, it is pinned perfectly. Okay, no, so yeah, there is spinning with not sacrifice of bullshit, I would say. It's not oh yeah, okay. No. Local. Oh, tweak hand. Maybe this is the copy transforms. Weird. Seems there's a glitch somewhere, but no, there is oh, of course, there's a dependency cycle. This is garbage. Yeah. So leave it like this because this is a parent, right? Of course. So here is just a question of, okay, what we do with this? Yeah, the parent. Maybe we could try. Yeah, we don't want it to follow, but if we want, we can probably double pose it. It gets some problem with posing for some reason. Yeah, I don't know why. They probably some keyframing there. No, yeah, it's because of its parenting, I guess. So I'm considering, what if we... It's probably should also not work. Like, what if we parent it here and then we bound constraint? And this will do the bad thing, right? But let's see. Oh no, I can't target this, of course. Oh no, I've changed. Yes, I can target, so this won't do nothing because, yeah, it's already being yeah, it's following the parent, so it doesn't override, so it's not good. We don't want this one, so we can just parent it here. It will cause, and we can't replace the location, then this bone will be sacrificed. So it really needs to be parent, maybe something like here. And then on top of this parenting, this is where we might need to do something about the yeah, so I was trying, right, some sort of copy rotation, no, copy rotation, yeah. So we could control some sort of rotation, why not? Indirectly. And but it might still be free to move if we let's see. It's not getting, yeah, it's because it has the parenting behavior, right? So it's good to have a tweaker that, so I don't have a it cannot just override. Yeah, it can override. Maybe this is the only way to go. If you like to ignore its parenting. Or we might just make a copy location. No, we don't want the copy location. Yeah, so it's like yeah, so it's sort of following the parent of set might be a and the replace. Yeah. So this is another little problem, is how the hand behaves. If it's free to move. Yeah, my other solution for this is like we can probably do something like this. Like we can decide which to adapt, right? But then it always displays, but it's kind of useful. Copy, right? Control C, copy visual rotation. So this is good if you want the arm to always. No, it's probably the opposite. No, it's yeah. So the parenting is bad here. So probably what we need to do is to. I don't like this override, but maybe it's the best thing to do. Strangely, this is not. Okay, so it's a full thing here, and if we want to change the behavior, we just can use this one. As long as the roles are adequate, right, you can always use this or even another bone that can be a widget that is an arrow that I've been using, so we can have this sort of I don't know what's happening here, if it has anything to do with. No, this has nothing to do with. It's probably the viewport. No pole target also, so there's and the length is chain length is straight, so it's a little weird to pose, but that works. Yeah, so we can have this. Yeah, so we cannot have a custom property, right, to that we could swap on demand, but it says during the rig posing. My strategy has been to try my best to use the custom properties to drive the custom properties actually, instead of driving the bones, just some behavior like key influence. No, actually drive this with the same driver that drives the custom property value, and then get the result from the toggler is usually a scale of a bone. And so in this way we can have the directly in the 3D viewport editor main region, and not the shitty rig UI that can have those that you have to keyframe. It's not just opening the end panel, you need to look at it and then do that, and while in the main region is just change the scale. It's if you have auto keying, even better, then it's just you reset auto keying, it will just keyframe the entire property, because right? Because it is inbuilt in the rig, in the skeleton. So it's much more ephemeral rigging. This was my latest applications, but here, as for this thing, folks, let's make a last revision here. So I would need to break down this or this to have the. So here you can have the perfect circular arc of motion for the body. I'm gonna demonstrate once again, if without too much pain, actually. So if I do this, so now what we need to be careful about is just okay, let's do this, and as you can see, this doesn't matter as long the bone is not touching, right? So you don't believe the okay, let's check here. I'm not sure what to do about this behavior here, so let's just keyframe. Let's keyframe. Okay, what's happening to? Oh, the rotation is wrong. It's wrong here. Copy. Yeah, shift here. Let's see. Yeah, the problem, yeah, what we do with the motion, right? So this is not behavioring. Yeah, so here I'm not totally convinced. It's not keyframing. Oh yeah, it's being it's like it's not keyframing. This doesn't keyframe yet. Okay, need to keyframe. Strange. Okay, maybe it's a bug. Okay, so you see it's doing, it stayed straight. So you need to do this thing. I didn't know, but you see that if you don't believe that this is a perfect circular arc of motion, then what about this? These are the deformed bones. So you see, busted meat halfway, because you see the thing here is that we need to have a breakdown here to have so, but the cool thing is that we don't need to care about the the direction, because this bone is not following, right? And there is no IK stretch. And if you want IK stretch, yeah, we can't use IK stretch, but you can stretch the rig like this, and this also works. And here I can reset. No, I can reset. Yeah, I can reset. And so you only stretch there a little, and you see it's kind of cool. So this is a curve that is adaptive because it starts curve and you can build on top of this. I think these are one of the best types of curve, because if you want to work with this kind of curve here, it's very stiff. It's always circular motions, but it's because of auto IK option, because the structure, but it's very stiff, right? It's always circular, and that will have some problems, right? Maybe, right, in my understanding, this can be limiting, and vice versa, right? If we just have this, the possibility to make curves like this is also bad. It's probably not as bad as this one. This one might be the default thing, but noobish thing, right? Like a mechanical thing, right? It's good, but it's too overly mechanical. While if you just have this, well, then you have something that you have to always break down, and it will be difficult to manage, but it is dynamic, it is organic, it's kind of cool to have this possibility. So this is why I believe the best curving are the ones that you have a spine structure as you have the structure of the circular arcs of motion, spontaneous, perfectly circular arcs of motion, but you can build on top of this slightly on demand. And if I reset, we have the perfect, right? So you see, and we can decide where we want to distort it. And this, I think this is the most cool, this is the best one. Can't say the best, there might be something better in the corner, but this is like the very interesting, right? We have like a bit of the best of the two worlds, right? And so this is a loose bone. So here we are demonstrating that even so I can have the perfect circular arc of motion with the extended master IK. What we cannot have, I couldn't find a way in this rig here without IK bone constraint, is to make this arc of motion, for example, for the perfect arc of motion for the if we are bending inside, and then here we will have to deal with we'll have to handle some tricks. So this will be not circular, but perfectly circular. It will be dynamic, but we need to say we want this one, right? So keyframe here, and okay, I forgot here. We'll have something like this, which character animation, right? If you yeah, so it's a limitation, but it gets the job done with just so I believe this is not so bad, especially because we can have less bones involved. Yeah, so ideally I think seriously there's no best solution. I think it depends on the rig, what history, right? What the riggers, the animators like or can use. So of course history matters, because if you have spent like me years doing some custom rigging of some project, you don't want to ruin all your research on unless you have find something, oh, this is so much better than what I have and I want that, so then you go, or they demand that, someone demand that, and that, yeah, and there's a good idea to swap if you have the resources. But otherwise, right, there are many reasons why not to make any change to something that is working, is just not optimal insert, or doesn't have maybe the most efficient way, or it's super complicated but gets the job done. So so I'm a researcher in, so like anyone that does custom rigging is probably research a lot. So basically the thing here is that the analytic thing of the CG softwares is always this, often will end up with the same problematic, and the same problematic, the same issue, big problems are that I'm abstractly, in an abstract way, is that it's overly analytical. So sometimes we just have too much of that, the perfect circular arc of motion, which the software can give us, mathematically accurate maybe, but it won't have it's very hard that it can solve the ways in more the things in more versatile ways. So you see, we might have all the arcs perfectly, but oh no, I don't want these arcs, I want something else, I want more freedom, and then it might not be achievable. But of course we can't even say that having arcs of motion is better, because yeah, precisely, if we build on top of that, yeah, we get some interesting thing. Not this case, but I've shown some case. Yeah, the case was this. The case was this one, when we are doing precisely this. Oops, not this. We are doing precisely this. And we have this bone here that we're gonna keyframe here, and here we're gonna also make it arc of, so perfect arc of motion, but then we're gonna this one, right? So we have an adaptive, but it's not like this one, right? This is totally it's like not totally free, because here the difficulty of this one is to get perfect circular arc of motion. And the difficulty of this one, okay, how do I undo this thing? You can't, because the bone is F key behavior binded. So it's like, you see, it's binary. We are stuck with either one thing or the other. But I think this one is, for most cases, will be the best, because it is, it seems to combine the stuff, the two, in a interesting way. But no, this is not perfect. Yeah, it's certainly garbage, because I'm sure there would be case scenarios that we would like to have full freedom, but the fact is that I don't know. I'm not. I can't be sure if the and even maybe there's just some exceptions that will never meet in 3D animation. So that's why we. It's hard to tell. But my intuition says both things, that yeah, ideally it will be good if the interpolation, automatic interpolation as CG software, was smart enough, and not dumb, but smart enough to understand, based not simply on the rig structure, but based on an understanding of what is needed by the animator. And this is the problem, because currently, at least in Blender, this system is binded to the rig, and the rig is like there are a lot of limitations in the rigs, including ephemeral rigging. So I'm not sure what is the subject of the interpolation arcs, of the interpolation curves, right? This motion represented by motion paths, right? I don't know what is behind them exactly, but if we can call it, it's a rig problem, or is it some interpolation? It's keyframing, so it's animation. It's a 3D animation problem, or is it a rigging problem? So where is the roots, right? Where are the roots? So the roots need to be adaptive to the rig, to the animation, ultimately to the 3D animation. And but I don't know if it is a, because if it's a rig problem, well, then we need to improve the rigs, because the rigs sucks. If it's only a rig problem, then the rig sucks, because it has these things, right? Maybe if we switch a parent F key, yeah, if we made something about the switching, we could change the interpolation of the same bone. It's an interesting proposition. And so we could make a bone either behave like that or even behave like that. It's very hard to test, because, no, not very hard, but it's tricky to test, because we need to be activating, updating. Where is the update of this arcs of motion path thing? Because there are even add-ons for that. So there's a update path. we need okay, Control T, Alt T. Control T is for make for me, Alt T is for unmake. What about Shift Control T maybe? Let's see. Auto keying, I don't know which behavior can update them. Yeah, like this can update, like auto keying. I'm not sure exactly. Something can. Sometimes they update, like this is cool, but sometimes they just don't update. And so I think when we delete some keyframes, maybe yeah they don't update. So Shift Control T. Yeah, there we go. So this is we need this shortcut here. So another great tip. I was missing that for a while. Okay, so this is the thing, one of the things. So here, what finally we can do, yeah, find let's bring this to play in a rig. Yeah, I just remember, sorry. So the thing is that can we change the behavior of the rig based on some custom property? Yes, possibly. So very likely, but I never verified this in real time. So let's make a verification here. So this bone is left unparented. So there, I think two ways of doing this. First, it is parented, then we restrained it to some massive controller. Like let's try. Let's do some massive thing here. So, for example, this one. Let's even do, I don't know, some... No, this is horrible. This is also horrible. Let's wire. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so... And we can probably do a full copy. And of course, now if I need to clear this parent here. And yeah, so this full copy. Why it is pulling? Yeah, because this this thing is an invader. It's because, yeah, because of course this parent is a problem, right? So this is not a good example. Yeah, but we lost the pinning, right? So because of this shitty parent, I've showed before, there's a bad idea. We need to parent this to a usually master I keys to COG, center of gravity bones, sometimes root bones, sometimes a main upper body bone, or a main for the fit main lower body bone. It's like a upper torso. No, it's like a torso for the upper body or lower body. But these techniques can cause some other trouble depending on the rigs you are doing. So a lot more bones to make, so it can be complicated. So anyways, but for the demonstration here, it will be just good enough. So we're gonna parent, keep. Okay, it has this parent. So if I do here, ignore all this because the ikebone constraint is forcing that, but that's fine. So now what we have is that you see that this behavior is not changing the right. This is a loose bone now. It's behaving like a loose bone, right? But we need to and if I toggle this off, or maybe influence to 0, then let's update Shift Control T. Actually, insert, reset, insert, not rotate here. And now is an arc of motion which is posable, right? So that, but we can change its behavior. And now it is a loose bone that we can pose directly. The arcs are going crazy. We don't pose directly, actually we need to pose. So it's tricky, right? But we see how this works, right? If we delete this, we have linear, right? It's a loose bone. But if we turn this off, then yeah, can be that. Then and you have this motion, then this motion path is probably is there. Okay, why it has interesting, right? We have two behavior. It's crazy. We have two motion paths there. All right. And it updated and it lost the other one. Okay, so this is crazy. I've updated and it, yeah, it deletes one. I don't understand. Maybe it's a bug, but you see, it doesn't delete one the other way around. It does delete, remove the. Okay, I was just updating, right? But okay. I don't know what is the, yeah, so it removes the one that was done through parenting, but it doesn't remove the one that was done through bound constraint. Okay, so you see, this is one way, and of course the other way would be to the other way would be to do this through a adding, right, a bound constraint, right, that, so it's like unparented. Now it is, so it's like the reverse, right? So we have a bone that starts being loose, a loose bone, right, as we can see. It's a loose bone. And then we might have a setup that makes it a fake parenting. Could be a child of, but I don't use that garbage. I use the fake parenting. So we can use, for example, I don't know which bone here we could use for this. I'm gonna make again that other bone. You'll see what the fake parenting is. It's just the same thing, the same idea, but inversed, right? We start a different, the reverse condition. So we have a mix, then we target this. This has no parent, but it has a bound constraint. No, we don't want that. So here we're gonna target this. We need local space and custom phase. So this is the pivot point. And we just copy paste those values. And so now this, yeah, we see the old one. And now, apparently, because this doesn't override, yeah, it's a mix. And this is a loose bone. So we have stacking loose bones. I'm not sure here what we... Not sure what I've made here. What we'll get by this. yeah, 2 stacking loose bones, so it's like it getting double transformed. So it's not exactly, this is it's not the case. Wait, no parenting? Yeah, it's because we have keyframes already. So we actually, if we got this enabled with the mix, right? We can't have the mix with keyframes for the bone constraint bone, or it will stack those transforms, right? So what we need to do here is to, yeah, we don't have keyframes, so here we got, yeah, so here nothing changed. It's a loose bone versus a combined loose bone, so it's not good. But we could try to, this bone would need to be manipulated by another bone, right? That will have some, oh, I see what's going on. Okay, we need a loose bone, and then of course we just need to, let's delete all this. So this is can describe an arc of motion. If we ever, okay, let's try to, what's happening with this vertex snapping here? This is better. Okay, so like we could have, so this is a loose bone. Wait. You said that I'm not touching this bone yet, but if I do this, yeah, it could be apparent here, but here we can, this at least we can disable, right? Change, so it's more versatile. So we could like keyframe everything here, but then for this one, and if we get this arc of motion here, of course this is an FK behavior, right? Fake parenting solution. And but if we disable this now, what about this? Crazy, right? Don't know about this, but then we can probably now have the FK behavior, right? Of course this is not FK behavior, so this is the linear crap thing without breakdown. So this is, and if we got this, can we update the arc of motion here? Control Shift T, nothing happens. We got this, Control Shift T. Oh yeah, it is stacking. Yeah, it is stacking transforms because this is not a replace, right? So this might not be very good when we're trying to have this multiple keyframing this and this. So this will be more likely to be yeah, full spaces here. But except that on the tail, right? And so that means that we have a perfect circular of motion for this bone, and then we can disable this, and now we have what would be a linear, yeah, because it's trying to reach the same position. Yeah, so we can change. What if you do this? we got some crazy automation. Yeah, the limitations that we need to, yeah, be keyframing this the same time. So it's like and we can always yeah, so linear, and if we update, then we update, we got here. So yeah, so proof of concept, of course, we can change the behavior of the, even in between, if we had to keyframe this, we could drive this somewhere. But yeah, it's kind of very bizarre to be changing the behavior of the arc of motion of the bone, although it sounds very useful, sounds important, but I can't tell any critical example now. You see, there are some ways of achieving it. So to conclude, folks, of this presentation, right, we saw that this doesn't solve all the tricks, right? But okay, I'm gonna save here. We are still very limited, right? But the cool thing is that I was doing a rig here in which I was struggling. This was a rig for stepped interpolation, where I was attempting a lot of solution that will be more spontaneous. Like, you see, this scaling affects the custom properties and not the other way around. So, and this is the same bone that pins the joints. And so we can keyframe, we can keyframe the custom property by just posing the scale of the bone, which is unused. So this is a bit tricky to get all this, but it is very feasible. So here we got, and also for the head pinning behavior, but I'm not sure I'll be able to show here, because I don't remember exactly. I need to... Okay, head is not pinning, but if we do this, head is spinning, yeah. And of course we can probably adapt. I don't know what's happening here, but let's yeah, we can use this arrow here to just reorient the hand. So we don't have the multiple behavior, but we could have at the expense another scaling feature. So the problem is that we don't have a toggable or influence. We don't have the custom property activated by the bone like a 10th channel, like 3 channels for, or even the W rotation. Is that an extra channel? So you don't have extra channels for the bone. So this is very bad, and maybe I should make a request for that in... Yeah, so if we had the custom if we could have those custom properties, they're immediately accessible like a grab, rotate, and scale, we could easily switch, and this will make Blender much closer to ephemeral rigging, because then the custom properties themselves get one step closer. It's a mini step, but it's efficiency wise, it seems for me very wise, very good upgrade. And so okay, let's now see where we could... So the problem is that this rig is that I removed the simultaneous IKF key when it comes for the arcs of motion. That means that I cannot do with this rig the perfect arc of motions for some bones, because for the arc is because I removed these features. So this bone will still make perfect arc of motion, but not this one. However, worst, this one has IK stretch. However, if I bring what I've just showed in the other previous file that I was presenting, then I can, yes, make arcs of motion for these limbs. Yes, this one will still depend of a posing tweaker, like that would not be a perfect, but it will, the full arc, provided we have the interpolation, get this thing far apart like I was showing, then we can have this bone to behave, the whole arm actually, yes, but especially for this bone, this will be arcing perfectly. Inside bendings like this, in like when we bring the IK master inside this dangerous region, yeah, then we're gonna lose, but we can still tweak the arc in some organic way that looks fine, right? And then I don't think this is a problem for my 3D animation in this rig. This is not a mechanical character, so it's like it's not a machine. So even if it was a machine, we can, this arcs of motion, we could probably play a little with illusion. So it's like we don't need to care too much about this. Of course, what is the advantage? Well, the advantage is that, in my opinion, of course, is that to rig this with the arc of motion. Okay, I have all the arcs of motion. Yeah, but even if this is simultaneous IKF key, because I can do this on my rigs. There is a simultaneous. There are more than one technique, right? One method. But in a rig very similar to this one, there was the arcs. The features were slightly different in the limbs. I oversimplified a lot of stuff here, and it's getting better, I think. And then but with these arcs of motion, I have extra bones to pose and to keyframe, just to make these stupid arcs for this bone, and yeah, essentially for this. But yeah, so why care about more bones in the right? It's pollution. It's not really necessary. So keyframe is also pollution, like you have to make an extra breakdown, but we're not creating extra channels. So there's a big advantage there, especially because I can do this the same. I can do good stuff from the perspective of the same bones. So yeah, this is an extra bone, but you see, my other approach was that I had another bone to manipulate and something like that. This will give one behavior, and this will be this behavior of the hand. But I've decided to dump that and maybe do no, not like this. It's the opposite, this. But of course, this is not progressive, right? So you need to be doing this, and see, if you want a gradual, we see that motion like this, see that it's a bit annoying. So the other way around will be to get the custom property dynamic like this. If we had more yeah, if there are free, usually the scale is free, and not often it is free, and it's tricky to get it free. In this case of this bone is easier, but for this one is way more complicated. I had to unparent the stuff to it, which would be much simpler. Just get a buffer bone that you see, copy rotation. What is this? There's even a drive here. I'm maybe I don't need that. So when we can use the scale without causing wreak havoc, because the scale of this bone, yeah, it's still the scaling sucks, but because this is the IK master, so doing the inverse, there's some resistance here, so it's not very easy to do this accidentally, but it's annoying that we can, right? Even though we have limit scale. Okay, so the thing is that, oh, that is, yeah, but nothing is to no avail. It's just, so maybe what you could do here with easy, cheesy change of behavior would be to have the same bone, the hand here. So we could maybe scale the bone and then access interchangeably this rotation behavior of the hand with just this property, right? And currently, I don't know why, but this is not responsible for scaling the hand. Okay, this is sort of ready-made. I don't know why this happened. Yeah, probably the deform rig is bound to just this and not to this other hierarchy. So we got the splitting in the hierarchy. This is necessary for, so we can, apparently this is free, right? So this is, sounds, I'm not sure if this is breaking anything, but yeah, we can use this scale for this bone and then we can change the behavior, right? And of course, with a custom property. So I'm not sure this is, yeah, like, because then you still have to remember to keyframe that, but I think it's kind of cool to have it here. And it's tricky, we need to have some training, but I'm still practicing here. I think it's very good for these bones. You see, pinning of the joint, it's even gradual, right? But pinning of the joint from the, of course, especially this, right? And yeah, here too, pinning of the joint. And non-pinning, because if you are doing auto keying, like this is very spontaneous, right? So this is very close to, much closer to ephemeral rigging, I think. But anyways, folks, this was the presentation. So in the I was doing these arcs of things. So if I implement this structure here, I can substitute this creepy Ike stretch, and then immediately I get some extra possibilities of perfect arc of motion for with a little expense on, but at least I can do this, right? It is an improvement. Furthermore, yeah, it's funny. Then we have to do something. Yeah, see, this is already stretching. So maybe this feature already exists there. I might have to swap some of the structure here. So I'm not sure how it will function to this rig. Every rig it's sort of unique, right? So I need to revise. But we see you have some quests here, mini quests, advanced rigging, custom rigging mini quests, and I think I would like to try this better than this, which is not a bad approach, but I think with changing behavior, if we can get this faster, more spontaneous, this might be the way to go. So I need to improve this one for the head pinning, because I think I believe there's some there are some problems with its behavior. Yeah, and this is for head pinning, can also be useful. So it's still a bit tricky rig to pose, but I'm getting yeah, it's very versatile currently, and it uses is getting simpler. I also have a different setting here for ankle leverage. It's a different system than the conventional. It doesn't, it's kind of crazy here. I need to demonstrate it in another video, but it's a bit loose. I cannot get the certain thing here because of the position of the head, so I have a problem with the pivoting, but I'm trying to see if I can. Yeah, because I cannot pivot it from... Oh, wait, I can. Ah, there we go. Okay, so we can do it. So that means that wait. Maybe I can. So if I just thought about it, we're gonna get for this bone. I think I have a wire. Wire line. I think this. Okay, gonna just. Then we're gonna adapt to this one. It will not really work the way I want, but the thing is that, yeah, so we have, it's pivoting from as if it was here. Yeah, and we can still do the other motion, right? Usually we can grab. The problem is that we don't see it, right? The shape adapting, so it's not that good, but we can at least resist. I don't. This is one little problem of this thing, right? I would have to do it with a bone that can move, but if it can move, it will be shifting its pivoting point, so it's weird, right? Here we lose the... But yeah, it's interesting because I have exactly this arcing there, which I was looking for. And this is not really useful, right? If we don't have this, then we have this, we can rotate, but we can't have... Yeah, so actually this is pretty... Yeah, it sounds a bit limited, but we can at least check. I need to change the type, right? Can probably lock the... Yeah, okay, new finding here, so great. So this is the great thing of Blender 5, has these features. Looks very useful. It probably can be improved in other ways. So okay, let's save this because there we go. So that's it, folks. Thanks for watching. Hope that was important. See, inspire. Maybe can do something better with that. Take care. Happy Blender. Have a nice weekend. See ya soon another day.